Hello and welcome again to another episode of Battle Ready. And today, it's time. It's finally time. The new Nighthaunt Battle Tome has been out for a little while. Yeah. We've gotten our chance to play it a little bit. And is it fun? Mm-hmm. How fun is it?
Very.
Very fun. It is a very fun tome. And so I thought we'd give a little, just our thoughts on the tome in general, but also, just like we did for Orcs, Stormcast, and Nurgle, if you're looking at getting into Warhammer, and you're looking and saying, hey, would a ghost army be cool? Should I play ghosts? Pros and cons on choosing ghosts for your first Warhammer army. Is it a good first army?
Yes.
Or is it not?
It is.
So
it's the first army I ever played.
Yeah, well, you played a 2.0 tome. So first, let's talk about what's in here. So, what is in here? What's in here? All the war scrolls, battle traits, everything you need to play the army. You've got, your painting and your lore and all that sort of stuff.
Reading.
Get your reading done.
That's
Path to Glory rules, right?
Nablash.
I think the one thing that really separates the Nighthaunt from a lot of other armies is that their battle traits are really good.
Yes.
Really good. You've got ethereal, so they all fly, and they all have an unrendable save. Right? They ignore rend.
You just can't do all-out defense.
Right.
Or Mystic Shield.
And because you can't get all-out defense, they do have a command ability called Discorporate that gives them a 5-up instead of a 6-up ward.
So it's like a different way to...
Yeah, but they still get something with those command points, right? On top of that, you can, if you're within 3 inches, so basically within combat, you terrify all units, and that means they can't issue or receive the Inspiring Presence.
Which is crazy.
So that means they're going to roll Battle Shock. If you can kill some guys, they're going to roll Battle Shock. You've got every time they charge, depending on what the charge roll is, they can apply a debuff.
Yeah, so if you get all 3 debuffs on.
So yeah, with a 10-up, they get a Strike Last effect. You can also do a -1 to save and a -1 to hit. So if you put all 3 of those debuffs on something, it's going to be
hard.
It's going to be hard.
For enemy.
So they just have lots and lots and lots of good battle traits. And to make up for that, if you read their...
War scrolls.
And they have Frightful Touch. Let's not forget Frightful Touch. So 6s to hit. Don't do mortals, but they do auto wound. So any 6 to hit, you don't have to roll a wound. It's already a wound, and so it will require a save roll. So that's pretty cool, army-wide. And then they can also...
the 6-up ward is now everywhere. It's not just within hero range.
You don't have to be within heroes to get your 6-up ward, so that's nice.
Yeah.
And they have that ability now where you can take, after you deploy, you can take 3 guys off.
I like that better than the...
Than the old one?
Yeah.
And then they can come on the board basically anywhere 9 inches away from other guys. So they've got some super powerful battle traits. To make up for that, for the most part,
the war scrolls.
The war scrolls are pretty lackluster. I mean, they're pretty poor. Most of the power comes from the battle traits. Now that there are exceptions. For example, Lady Olinder's pretty good still.
And Kurdos.
Kurdos is...
He hits like a big island.
He does, but...
He's glass cannon.
Without Frightful Touch, without Wave of Terror, without
Terrifying.
Ethereal, right? So he can be rended if he's not in the Nighthaunt army.
No, it's on their... Oh, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's
a battle trait.
On their war scrolls.
So because of that, I mean, there's stuff that still has play, but it's going to be very hard to have another army. Maybe you've got a Bone Reapers or Soul Blight or whatever, and you want to bring in some Ghosty Boys. They're going to lose a lot of what makes them really cool. The War Scrolls by themselves are pretty
terrible.
When you look at the Chain Rasps, they've got a 5-up save. Now, when that's unrendable, that's not the worst thing in the world. Plus, if you can discorporate them, it's not terrible. But when it's totally rendable, because they're not in a Nighthaunt army, those guys are not going to be good.
Yeah.
So I think that that's both good and bad. On the good side, you don't have to worry about remembering 100 different war scrolls, right? You don't have to remember, oh yeah, this guy's the ability, has that one ability. And oh, this guy gives the aura that does this thing. And oh, now there is a little bit of that, for sure. But it's a lot less than a lot of other armies. A lot of other armies are like, well, you bring this hero because his war scroll has the command ability that triggers and gives this guy here, and because of his innate ability, that'll actually double up, or whatever it is. And this one, you can get away with sort of glancing through the war scrolls before a game, and then you know what the abilities are because the battle traits apply to the whole army. So you know everyone has ethereal. Everyone, and they can all retreat and charge too.
Yeah, which is really good.
So they can all retreat and charge. They all have ethereal. They all have the frightful touches. And so you don't have to worry about remembering, oh yeah, is this the guy that does 6-6s to hit, do something? Nope, it's just army-wide, you know what to do. On the bad side, I think it makes their ability to ally in pretty bad. So I think you will probably only want to use Nighthaunt in a Nighthaunt army.
Yeah.
And I also think that if you don't know what the abilities are and you don't try to maximize the battle traits and you're just looking at war scrolls, you might not have the best time. I mean, one of the things we've talked about before is one of the best ways to teach the game is to just play the war scrolls, right?
Yeah. Not so with Nighthaunt.
Maybe not with the Nighthaunt army. Whoever's playing the Nighthaunt army is going to be
sad.
In trouble. Yeah, they're not going to do it.
The person teaching will probably play this Nighthaunt army.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they take on the Nighthaunt as like the penalty, right?
Like the Even Steven cards from...
Yeah, like Even Stevens. So there is that. That's both a positive and a negative. You look at the command traits, artifacts of power. But one thing, they're good. I mean, there's some good ones. There's some not as good ones, but they're fine. They're fine. Spell lores are pretty powerful, and that means bringing Nagash in can be really good with Nagash's bonuses to cast. Of course, he's still almost 1,000 points, so I don't know if it makes sense to bring Nagash in, but you could.
I mean, you still do get a lot of guys. I mean, Nagash could be your one hero, and then you just bring up.
And then just bring everything else. Also, the processions are all pretty well. I really like 3 out of 4 of them.
Which one do you not like?
I don't super love the Grieving Legion, which is a little bit sad because it's the main one. But the Grieving Legion, and now you could build around this ability and do some really cool stuff, I am sure. But their ability is you can't retreat. You can't retreat from Grieving Legion. Oh, okay. Okay. I mean, that's fine. But the other ones are all good. You have Emerald Host, which can do damage to heroes every round. It's almost like having a Scriptor Mortis ability. Might even be a little bit better in some ways. Scarlet Doom, which makes your blade guys really good. And as they only have 1 inch reach, which isn't the best, but when they're veterans, they can all get in. Oh, those guys are good. They get impact hits. Super good.
With the Scarlet Doom.
With the Scarlet Doom. And then just natively on their war scroll, they go from 2 attacks to 3 attacks on the charge. So you're constantly pulling out, charging in, getting impact hits, getting additional attacks. It really makes those blade guys pretty cool. And then the last one is the Quicksilver Dead. So this one buffs Dreadscythe Harridans, which we don't have any of.
Yeah.
But it makes the Dreadscythe Harridans, you can't use ward rolls against them. Now, there's a lot of stuff in the game right now that has ward rolls.
Yes.
There, all Nurgle, all Death has ward rolls. Powerful hero units like Indrasta, Bastion Carthalos, Kragnos. I mean, there's lots of things in the game right now that have ward rolls. Glutos has a ward roll a lot of the time. But anyway, so having a couple units of Harridans that you sort of keep in reserve, and then when they bring their power unit up and you swing in, it's pretty cool. The one nice thing about these other processions, though, is sometimes you get in a situation where you're like, well, I want to be Hollowed Knights, but I also want to bring Bastion Carthalos, so he won't get the Hollowed Knights abilities.
Yeah.
Darn. But these ones are sort of cool because even when you bring in your Grieving Legion heroes, Scarlet Doom and Quicksilver Dead, and even Emerald Host, they don't affect them anyway. They don't affect heroes.
Yeah.
They affect the Harridans or the Bladegeists. So the fact that they're from another place doesn't super matter. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really sort of cool. All right. So having gone through this, how do you think they play relative to the lore? Do you think they feel like Nighthaunt, the way they read in the book? Is that how they play on the table, or do you think there's a mismatch?
This one, yes.
Well, just in general, the book in general. Do you think there's a mismatch, or do you think they pretty much play how you would want Ghosty Boys to play?
They play like you'd want them.
Why do you say that?
Because ghosts scare humans.
They do?
So the way they fight, they terrify the enemy. Literally. That's their ability to terrify them. So I feel like they play into that.
One of the things that I think is so cool, if you've read any books with Nighthaunt, they're always described as like rushing through and coming in waves and, tearing through the people that they're attacking. And it didn't always used to feel that way. They sort of just moved like every other army. But now, with their constantly retreating and charging, it really does feel like they're swooping in.
Murdering.
And on their next turn, they're coming out and swooping in. And that feels really cool. I really like the way they do that. And then I like the idea of them putting debuffs on people. They didn't really do that before. I guess they reduced bravery by 1, but who cares, right? Not a big deal. Especially where you have inspiring presence, right?
And now they completely shut that off.
But now, yes. So now instead of reducing bravery by 1, which is meh,
they reduce it to 0.
They turn off inspiring presence for everybody they're in combat with. That's pretty cool. That, suddenly you're rolling a lot more battle shocks than you were thinking you were going to have to.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So I think overall this is an improvement over the 2.0 book.
Yes.
This definitely feels ghosty. It feels Nighthaunty. So if you're looking for that Nighthaunt experience, this is a win, I think.
Yes.
All right. Last question. So, Drake, you're just starting out with Warhammer. Maybe you got a friend who comes to you and says, I want to start Warhammer. I'm trying to pick my first army. I've got a couple in mind where I think the models are really cool, and one of the ones I think is the coolest is Nighthaunt. Do you think I should start with Nighthaunt as my first army?
Yes.
Yes. Why do you say yes?
Because even though there's a lot of models, they're easy to learn because most of their abilities activate on the charge, shooting and combat, the 3 phases that are right next to each other. They won't die fast. And even if they die, you res them with a Guardian of Souls or a Linder. No Rest for the Wicked is such a good ability.
It is and it worked out real well in our 2K battle report. All right, I have to agree. I think, well, first of all, rule of cool. If you like the models and they get you excited to play the game, then definitely get them. I have to agree with Drake. I think this would be a great army to start off with. Having all of your power basically on the battle traits instead of the war scrolls is helpful. Being able to, the play style sort of comes through in that you're constantly retreating and charging. That is pretty good. I think that there's a lot of good here for a new player. Are there some downsides?
Yes.
I think there are. So
it might take a little bit to move all your models.
So if you have a larger army, if you play with rasps or things like that, they're a little bit more hoardy. It's going to add some time.
It's hard to make a Nighthaunt not hoardy.
So, and because you're constantly moving them in and out.
Yummy.
In and out is good. Because you're constantly moving them, that is going to add a little bit of time to the game. Oh, there is one other thing I think that is a little bit of a negative, and that is the majority of the war scrolls in here. I mean, the vast majority are good. Oh, well, I mean, in the Nighthaunt army.
Yeah.
In the Nighthaunt army. Yeah, by themselves, they're pretty much all bad. But in the Nighthaunt army, the majority of them are good. Yes. Meaning, if you like Banshees, throw them in. If you like Harridans,
they are good at
throw them in. If you like Spirit Hosts, throw them in. If you like Chain Rasps, throw them in.
Chain Rasps are okay.
But anything can be good in this army. But there are one in particular that comes to mind of a war scroll that is just garbage.
What?
The sticker boys. What are they called?
The Glaverits?
Glaive Wraith Stalkers
I found
are
their war scroll.
so bad.
Why?
I mean, just terrible. And so if you don't have a lot of experience with the game and you haven't been, it's hard for you to judge
I feel like
a
they
good
use
war
the-
scroll from a bad one. You could look at Glaive Wraith Stalkers and think, oh, this will be pretty cool. And it's the opposite, especially because they only come in units of 4 and they're 105 points, which is almost as much as 10 chain rasps, which is, I think, 110. It just doesn't even make sense. It's really bad. So you do have to be aware of some stinkers out there. Overall, are there a couple of pitfalls and a couple of things that a new player should be aware of? Sure. But this book is thematic. It feels like Ghosts. If that's the kind of experience you want, a ghost just coming up out of the ground and swooping down and that sort of thing.
Also,
This is a
here's
good one to get.
another one I don't like. The Craven Throne Guard. I don't like them as much as I thought I would.
Yeah, they're all right. They're all right. They're not great. They're not the best. All right. Well, hopefully, if you were interested in Nighthaunt, if that was something that you were looking at and thinking, you might want to try out, whether as a first army or not, hopefully this gave you a little bit of information. But this has been another episode of Battle Ready, and thank you so much for watching.